Take a breath. You just used roughly half a second of your life. Your species has approximately 2.5 billion of those seconds if you live to 80. That sounds like a lot. Against the age of the universe, it is 0.0022% of all the time that has ever existed. Not 0.0022% of history, not 0.0022% of Earth's existence, of the universe itself, of everything. The strange part is not the number. The strange part is that you already knew this, roughly, and it has not stopped you from caring deeply about what happens to you today. The universe is approximately 13.8 billion years old. Compress that into a single calendar year, January 1st to December 31st, and the Big Bang opens the year in silence. The first stars ignite in January. The Milky Way assembles through spring. Earth forms in early September. The first single-celled life appears in late September. Dinosaurs do not arrive until December 26th. They are gone by December 30th. Modern Homo sapiens, your species, with language, fire, burial of the dead, and an awareness of its own mortality, appears approximately 6 minutes before midnight on December 31st. All of recorded human history. Every war, every crop, every city, every book, every god ever named. The last 14 seconds of the year. What was happening in the other 99.9978%? Stars were forming from collapsing gas clouds, burning for millions of years, and dying in explosions that seeded the next generation with heavier elements. Carbon, oxygen, iron. The atoms in your body were forged inside stars that no longer exist. Life on Earth spent roughly 3 billion years as single-celled organisms. Then, multicellular life appeared, and the planet ran 5 mass extinctions, each one resetting the biological board. The Permian extinction, 252 million years ago, killed more than 90% of all species on Earth. None of it produced a witness, vast, intricate, and utterly unobserved by anything capable of asking why it was happening. The universe was running for 13.79 billion years before anything looked up. On February 14, 1990, the spacecraft Voyager 1 was approximately 6 billion kilometers from Earth. Engineers instructed it to turn its camera back toward the inner solar system one final time before the camera was switched off forever. The image it returned showed Earth as a point of light, less than a pixel wide, suspended in a beam of scattered sunlight against a black background. It is called the pale blue dot. The scientist Carl Sagan described that pixel as every human who had ever lived, every king and farmer, every act of cruelty and every act of kindness, suspended on a mote of dust in a sunbeam. From the outside, the most striking observation is not the smallness of the planet. It is the fact that the species living on that pixel calculated its own smallness, looked at the result, and felt something. Not nothing, something. Closer to vertigo than indifference. No other known species has done this. Every other organism that has ever lived on that pixel lived and died without producing a number. This changes the shape of the question. Human existence being 0.0022% of cosmic time is not primarily evidence of human insignificance. It is evidence of something considerably stranger. The universe spent 13.8 billion years producing a process complex enough to measure itself. And that process, so far, appears to have occurred exactly once. The smallness is not an argument against meaning. It is a data point that only something capable of meaning could generate, which raises the harder question. If the numbers are clear, if humans represent a fraction of time too small to be visible on most scales, why does meaning feel so urgent? Why does any of it matter so viscerally? The answer appears to be biological, not philosophical. Research in psychology, particularly work associated with terror management theory, suggests that human awareness of mortality is not simply an unpleasant fact that organisms tolerate. It is an active pressure on behavior. Studies show that when people are reminded of their own death, they cling more strongly to cultural worldviews, to symbols of permanence, to groups that feel larger than themselves. Meaning-making, by this account, is not a luxury of consciousness. It is a response to the problem that consciousness creates. A brain complex enough to model the future is a brain capable of modeling its own absence. Something had to fill that gap, or the organism would not function. Culture, purpose, legacy, love, these are not decorations on top of survival. They are part of the architecture that made survival possible. The cathedral and the terrified animal in the dark are the same creature. One is just further from the original problem. So here's what the evidence suggests. Human consciousness evolved to solve problems at the scale of a lifetime, a tribe, a winter. It was never built to process 13.8 billion years. When it encounters that number, it reaches for the tools it has, meaning narrative, significance, Because those are the only tools it was ever given. Humans are not wrong to make meaning. They are doing exactly what a brain shaped by millions of years of survival pressure does when it encounters a scale it cannot hold. It shrinks the scale down to one it can act within. It takes a breath. It builds something. It names its children. This is not a failure of reason. It is reason operating inside the only frame it was ever given. Take a breath. In the 13.8 billion year history of this universe, that breath occupies a duration too small to name with ordinary language. The window in which your species exists is a rounding error on a rounding error. And yet, that window is the only one in which the rest of the timeline was ever seen at all. The universe ran for nearly 14 billion years in complete darkness before something opened its eyes. What it found, when it looked, was itself, vast and cold and almost entirely empty, surrounding one small animal that had somehow learned to look back. 0.0022% of everything, the only fraction that counted.